Howdy everybody, I'm Gary and this is GLoPersonalFinance, where I talk about getting your finances under control, building wealth, and becoming financially independent. I had another amazing opportunity to collaborate with my longtime friends and elementary school classmates from Frontrunner Leadership Consulting. Our respective channels have overlapping topics, so we wanted to have a roundtable Zoom chatting about them. Our first roundtable was about budgeting, it's linked in the description below, but this time we wanted to tackle the daunting subject of retirement, specifically retiring early, or FIRE. Check out their YouTube channel, Frontrunner Leadership Consulting, and their 15-minute fixed videos covering a huge array of topics. It's also great knowing both of our channels are relatively young, so please consider subscribing to both to see what it's like for a channel to be built from the ground up. So let's set ourselves on fire and hear our discussion about retirement and retiring early.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the 15-minute fix. Glad you decided to join us for another fix this week. Gary and Kim, I don't think I've ever been more excited about an episode. I am so excited about this topic today. So thanks, Kim, for being here as always. Thanks again to Gary Lowe, who's joining us another week from GLoPersonalFinance. We're going to be talking about, for today's 15-minute fix, how to retire early. There is actually a wave that is sweeping the nation. It might even be international, but I know it's definitely sweeping the nation. There is a group of people growing who are retiring early. And when I say retiring early, I don't mean 60 versus 65. I'm talking about late 30s, early 40s. And I, for one, want to get in on this adventure. So Gary Lowe from GLoPersonalFinance, and you can also check him out on his YouTube channel, is here joining us today. So thanks for being here again, Gary.
Thank you for having me.
So Kim, start us out and talk to us a little bit about retirement and retiring early. What should we be thinking about? How do we start this journey? What are some considerations that we really need as millennials?
Absolutely. So I think it's interesting, the concept of thinking about retiring early, because one, even if we're just talking about standard retirement, people typically think of working until the point that you decide to retire, or the standard retirement age, right, which is 65. And it's more so, or it's less about just working until that age and more so about having a strategy about how you plan after you stop working and what type of lifestyle you want to have at the point that you decide not to work traditionally. So really excited to hear from Gary about some strategies to get us to that point. Because you certainly can just work until the point where you, can't work or decide not to work anymore. But I think there's more that goes into that if you really want to have the quality of life. I think what's interesting about the concept of retiring early is it really leaves more of your lifespan to actually enjoy the fruits of your labor, because I think that's really the point of it. I think especially as millennials and beyond, are all about the quality of life, not just living, not just working, but what can we get out of it? So I'm really excited to hear the tools that Gary has for us today.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Let's enjoy it. So how do we start this off, Gary? What do we need to be thinking about? And maybe tell us a little bit how you came into this concept.
So the fire movement has always intrigued me. It was always a daunting thing for me to think about. I was like, I have to wait until I'm 67 to retire. And I was like, this just sounds horrible, right? It's like I didn't want to do that. And then we were chatting before, and we were saying, it's like we were talking about, yeah, 67 is such an arbitrary number to retire. It's and it got me thinking. Retirement is actually not an age, it's actually a number in your bank account. So
Mhm.
if you were to reach a certain number in your bank account, you could actually retire whenever you want, right? So it all depends, like Kim was saying, it all depends on how you want to live in your retirement years. So let me give you one example. Say we want Netflix for the rest of our life. All right. And I'm using Netflix because it's $9 a month. Okay. And what if I told you that you can put X amount of money in your account right now, and you can have Netflix for $9 a month for the rest of your life? you'd be telling me, it's like, that's a lot of money, right? Because I'm just gonna punch it out in the calculator right here. 9 times 12 is $108 for the year. And then for the rest of your life, let's see, like you live what, 40, 50 more, let's say 50 more years, that's $5,400, right? So you have to stick $5,400 under your mattress, and every month you would take $9 off that for the rest of the 50 years. Okay. But what if I told you that you don't have to save $5,400? You actually only have to save $2,700. And with that savings, have you can actually pay for Netflix for the rest of your life. And when you die, you can actually take that money that you save, that $2,700, and you can give it to your kid, right? You'll have money left over. And you do that by investing. You do that by putting your money not in a savings account, because savings accounts, yeah, it's a good place to store money, but it loses value. So if you stick $100 in your savings account, in 10 years, that $100 is not going to buy $100 worth of goods of today's value. It's going to probably only buy $80 worth of goods in today's money, which is horrible, right? So the premise of FIRE is putting money into an investment so that you can actually live off of it for the rest of your life. So yeah, if you want Netflix for the rest of your life, you don't need to save what, $5,400. You only actually need to save $2,700, and it could last you for the rest of your life. And you can actually like take that $2,700 and give it to your next of kin, which is really, really, really nice. So how do you do that? You invest in indexes. Now, an index fund is something that tracks the S&P 500. I know like investing might sound daunting to a few people, but like it's honestly, what I do is I stick my money into an index fund and I don't pay attention to it until I need to retire. It's that easy. So here's the thing. When we were talking before about retirement is a number, what I need to do is I need to track how much I spend throughout the year. And I need this to be a good average, right? Because I don't want to be like, oh, one year I spend 30,000, the other year I spend 50,000. What I actually need to do is I need to find a good average of how much I spend, because I mean, I made it work, right? If I spend 30,000, I made it work. If I spend 40,000, I made it work. Okay. So what you need to do is track how much you need to spend for the year, and you need that to be a good number. So you need to keep really good accounting. And then what I do is I take that number, say I want to spend $35,000. I multiply this number by 25, and I get a value of 875,000. So that is my retirement number. As long as when I hit in my investments, when I hit $875,000, I know right then and there I can retire, and I can live off of 35,000 for the rest of my life.
Nice.
I know that sounds easy. There's a little more that goes into that, but it is honestly that simple. It's a number that you achieve that you can live off essentially for the rest of your life. And that's the amazing part to me. So I know it's called 15 Minutes Fix, and there is a whole lot more that you can go into this, but I hope this spurs a spark in your mind that's, yeah, retirement is just a number that once I hit, I can live off of that for the rest of my life. And like, hopefully your viewers can research a little more into this rule called the 4% rule.
Nice. Thanks, Gary. So, and we talked about this a few weeks ago when you joined us and gave us some great tips for budgeting. The first most important consideration is tracking, right? So tracking your spending. How
Definitely.
much do you and your family spend on average in a given year?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I also heard you say you need to kind of estimate your life expectancy. Now, I know we don't like talking about dying, right? It sounds kind of grim in a financial conversation, but for the sake of the conversation, you need a window that you're planning for.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
say if you're 35 and you plan to live on average till 85, how much would you need to spend a year from the time you want to retire until the life expectancy ends?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so say if it's 40,000 a year from age 35 to age 85, and then seeing what that would be, and in your investments, making sure that you hit that goal to know that you can
Mm-hmm.
live comfortably in retirement, correct?
Yeah. So
Great.
yeah, you got to plan. Yeah, the thing about retirement, the daunting thing about retirement is you got to think really, really far ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, you got to think 30, 40 years ahead and say, in 40 years, can I still survive on $40,000? If not, maybe you gotta bump it up a little bit. You want to live on $50,000 a year. You just take $50,000, multiply it by 25, and then by the time your investments hit 1.25 million, then you can retire, right?
Right. And you said something to me interesting the other day, Gary, which I thought was important. So it's not just 25. You didn't just pick that number, but you're saying from whatever age you are till the time of death, right?
Mhm.
But also, you've got a factor that's just keeping up with your life, your current spending trends.
Yeah.
So you might need to factor in if you plan on having children or expanding your family significantly, sending your children to a college or university, or some other major life events. Also cost of living adjustment, because I'm sure in 25, 35 years, to your other point, the value of things won't be the same. So
Yeah, exactly.
factoring some of that in as well, and maybe adding that cushion in to
Mhm.
whatever number comes up in your
Mhm.
algorithm personally.
For sure. So whenever you pick your fire number, you actually want to like err on the side of be cautious, right? So maybe I know you only spend maybe 35,000 per year. You've been doing that for the past 5 years. Maybe pick a savings rate of pick a spending of 45,000. So you have that $10,000 buffer, and so you can live comfortably throughout your retirement. So yeah, like putting in those buffers, putting in those safeguards is definitely a huge part of planning ahead for sure.
That's great advice. And when you said earlier, retirement is not an age, it's a number, I'm like, yes, I am out of here. I'm so excited. I'll snap to that. So that's really exciting. So let's give our 15-minute fixers a challenge for the week. So I want to challenge you all, because we visited this topic in budgeting, and now we're revisiting this, talking about the FIRE movement. And you all do a little bit more research on what that is, that early retirement movement that's trending and buzzing. Look into that, but start your challenge, your personal challenge, with tracking your spending. For you, for your family, start with that tracking. You can start tracking for a month, then start tracking. Really, you want to get to the point where you're tracking for a whole year, but start with something that's small and tangible. Kim talked about goal setting in our very first 15-minute fix. So just till you get the hang of it, start with a month tracking your spending, and then get to the point where you're tracking it for a whole year. So that's your challenge. And for the two resources. Again, we want to redirect you to GLO Personal Finance, Gary's YouTube channel, where he gives you some additional advice on this and some great wisdom around this topic. But also, we want to direct you to another YouTube channel that Gary follows, actually, called Our Rich Journey. And they spell out in depth about investing, about FIRE, and many other concepts towards early retirement. There's a couple that has a YouTube channel, Our Rich Journey, and they probably have at least 100 videos that kind of detail how they got to the point of early retirement, and they retired at age 40 last August. So we're super excited for them. Gary, we're excited about your journey. Gary, I want you to get excited about our journey, because we're right behind you on this. So we're excited.
And like we're documenting it throughout this whole
Right.
journey. So like fire is a mindset, and like all your 15-minute fix videos is about changing your mindset and being part of what you believe. So yeah, it's exciting seeing us all pretty young in our fire journey, and yeah, keep on following along with us and be the mindset.
I love that
Absolutely.
idea about a mindset because I think as you shift to thinking about your goal number for what you need to save, so what you need to have on hand to retire versus looking at, I think sometimes, like Kasha said, it's daunting to think about your life expectancy. But it's easier, I think, and a little bit more tangible for us to look at what we can put aside and what different decisions that we can make to get to our goal number in terms of our finances. So I love that, and I'm excited to see what our fixers do with that knowledge.
All right. So leave us some comments, send us some messages. Let us know how your journey is going. If you have questions for us or for Gary, meet us in the comment section. But as always, thanks, Kim and Gary, and I'll see you guys at the beach when we retire.
Yes.
Have a good one. Thanks,
Bye,
guys.
everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye.